I've already seen quite a few good questions popping up in the chat there. Definitely some of those I will try and address as we go. Some of them we may need to wait to the end. I've set aside some Q&A time at the end for us. Um, so we've got the Q&A system in Zoom. We've also just got the straight chat. I've got both of them in front of me. I will try and keep track of them as best I can. Certainly anything that gets too long and detailed, we'll probably leave to the end, but I do like to be able to answer things as we go. So for all of my webinars, and I give quite a few webinars, I like to let you know a little bit about me. I also want to try and learn a little bit about you and what you're after from the session. Going to briefly look at AI search and how it's kind of the next step and the next progression in being able to do literature reviews and kind of so where we've come from and where we're at now. We're then going to jump from PowerPoint over to SciSpace and we will do a brief tour. And then I'm going to demonstrate the topic in the literature search. So there's lots and lots of tools there, far more than we can get through today. But I'm going to show you some key features, show you some of the things that I really like using. I've been using it for about 2 years now, maybe even a little bit more. So I'm going to show you some of the ways that I use it, some of the things that I really like about it. And then we'll have some discussion and Q&A. And at the end, I've also got some discount codes to be able to give you. You will have noticed that the recording has flicked on, so we are recording the session as well. Okay, so let's get going. And a couple of people are already kind of worked ahead a little bit on this. But what I'd really love in the chat is for you to let me know where you are. We've tried to span evening in the west coast of America, New Zealand, Australia, where I am, all the way through to India. So we've got potentially quite a big geographic spread. And what kind of things would you like to learn today? So I'll just give you a minute just to pop that into the chat. Doesn't need to be too detailed, but really just helping guide me to shape the session, make it as useful as possible for you. Okay, so we've got Australia, we've got India, Abu Dhabi. It must be early there. So we really are. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Um, Okay, all around the world. Wow. I think there's some people that are staying up late and some people that are getting up early. Excellent. Cool. So it looks like a bit of a mix of people at different stages in their research career as well. So I will try my best to kind of talk a little bit about everything from that kind of grad student on his master's level through PhD, through postdoc, through to that higher level. Um, Excellent. Thank you very much, everyone who has put some info in the chat. If you're still typing, please finish your thought. I will see it pop up and come past. But yeah, really great international group we have. Thank you. And we will definitely looking at some of the features of SciSpace now. I'll talk about my own workflow, but I think it's something it's probably still getting shaped. So a little bit about me. I've been a researcher and I've been in higher education for more than 20 years. Started off in New Zealand where I grew up, and I now live in Australia. I've worked and researched and have qualifications in stats, finance, education, sociology, and now currently working in medical education research. So I'm a senior education researcher at the Royal Australian College of General Practitioners. So my job there, I manage several research funds and research programs, and I also do research looking at better ways for training GPs or general practitioners. In other countries, you might know those as primary care doctors or primary care physicians. So the doctor that you would be your first point of contact generally. The past year, I've been doing a lot of AI related work with that, looking at how medical professionals and trainees are using AI. On the side, I do lots of different things. So I have a YouTube channel and I talk a lot about AI there. I'm a consultant and a board member and do some other bits and pieces. And I always like to add a few pictures of what's going on around me. So we've got some of the local wildlife. Those kangaroos actually live at the local private school. And so they're just around the corner. It's a kookaburra from the backyard, and I really enjoy powerlifting. So it's me lifting some weights recently. Okay, so some of you won't know the pains of actually having to go into a library to look for journal articles. So if we think about where research has come from, where we are now, once upon a time, and if you are my age or older, you may actually remember we had to go to the library and you had to find the physical journal. And that was very time consuming, and someone might have moved it or someone might have taken it out. And then slowly there was the introduction of databases. And the very first ones, you still had to go to the university library. And then for more of you, you may have your research journey may have started where you had the online databases and you could log in, you could search them, you didn't need to go to the library anymore. That was really helpful. But there was lots of different databases. So it was slow, you had to use multiple databases, and they were generally pretty painful to use. And the next step along for a lot of people was when Google Scholar came out. And so Google Scholar uh, was handy because it seemed to search a lot more. So you got breadth. It was more familiar because people were already using Google. But the big downsides were that it worked off keywords. So you couldn't give it a research question. You could only give it keywords. And then you had to hope that your keywords hit the articles that you were after. And you'd end up with pages and pages of content, and you would get some useful stuff, but you would get lots of stuff that wasn't a match exactly to what you were after. And the filtering was generally pretty tricky to do. And so in the past 2 years, as we've got large language models, we've now got these access to AI tools where we can search, and the search is becoming more efficient. So one of the really nice things is that we can ask research questions and we can give it more context. So instead of trying to just fumble along with some keywords, we can have our research questions instead. The AI tools tend to have a lot better filters, so we can filter, we can sort, we can rank, and then in addition to being able to search, we can summarize as well. So when we're doing our research, in those prior eras, you'd get your articles, you'd read all of the articles, and then you'd start writing. But then when you're writing, then you'd have to go back to the articles and you have to find them again. Um, Whereas a lot of the tools now integrating things like notebooks, places where you can actually start to write notes and put together your research at the same time as looking at the literature. So that's a little bit of context of where we've got to. And so today, the plan is that we're going to have a look at SciSpace. And so I suspect we've probably got a bit of a range of experiences of people who some may have come here um, via LinkedIn from me or from YouTube or from places where they may not have used SciSpace. We may have some people that are already using SciSpace. Going to try and pitch probably more to the newer users. So there might be a few things that we look at that are fairly basic, but hopefully there'll be something in this for all of you. Um, so there's lots of tools. Going to start with just a little bit of a looking at what tools are there. We're not going to go into every single one, but I'll just mention a couple of them. Then we're going to have a look at topic search, and so I think I can imagine that this is most useful. And thinking about my own experience, would have been most useful back when I was doing my honors and my masters, and I kind of knew the topic I wanted to research, but I didn't know something specific enough. And so the topic search really helps with trying to kind of get your thinking down into a more specific topic area. We're going to look at literature search, and so I'm going to demo the standard high quality. I'm going to briefly show you the deep research, which is a relatively new feature and is quite a premium feature. But we'll focus most of the time using the standard and the high quality. We'll look at the filters and some of the things that you can do once you've done a search. Okay, so hopefully that all sounds pretty useful and interesting. Let us jump over. And it's been sitting here for a while. Let's just refresh it. So this is SciSpace, and for those that haven't been here before, it's a collection of a whole lot of AI tools. You can see here on the homepage, the very first thing we see is a search box, and so in there we can put in a research question, and it's going to start searching for literature for us. Scrolling down, we can see icons for a whole lot of different tools. And these are also accessible over on the left-hand side. So I'm not going to click into all of these because that'll take up a bit much of our time. And some of them I think are fairly clear what they are. So things like My Library is where anything that you've uploaded is stored. Also keeps your notebooks, which is basically really just a digital version of a notebook where you'll have summaries and you can take notes and then you can write and edit. My profile is pretty cool. So just like on sites like Google Scholar, you can make your own profile. You can link your publications up. So for those of you who are more that kind of intermediate senior researcher, you've started to get a few publications, you can get the profile on there. And you can even make an AI clone version of you to talk about the papers. Um, you can chat with PDF, and when we're looking at literature review, we'll have a little bit of a look at that. Basically, it lets you ask questions about either one or more PDFs, either ones that you've uploaded or from the articles that you've found from your literature search. Literature review, we are going to be looking at in depth. It's basically a duplication of the box we see here. It's going to let us put in a research question and search. Screen not visible. Hopefully the screen is visible.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
yep.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Um, cool. Sometimes with Zoom, just logging out, logging back in. Hopefully it will update for you if you're having any screen visibility challenges. So we've got an AI writer. It's going to help you with being able to work on your writing. Find topics we're going to have a good look at, and that helps with just taking a broad topic, trying to niche down a little bit. Paraphraser helps with rewording. We've got a citation generator, which is really handy where you've got your citation and you need to publish, you're publishing in a particular journal, you need it in a particular format. It will generate it in the correct format for you. Super, super handy. Extract data will take a PDF and it will pull out the key information. When it says data, it's talking about the information from an article. So what is the methods? What is the discussion? What is the conclusion? As opposed to numeric data. We've got an AI detector. So if you're doing a piece of writing, you're a bit worried about whether it is sounding a little bit robotic, you can use that. And then PDF to video, which is another pretty cool one, where for your own articles, you can get it to generate presentations and the presentations, actual slides, and then even videos. For those of you, again, where you're already published or publishing, really nice way to be able to generate content that is going to let you um, be able to share your research in a way that's not big, heavy, long research papers, but kind of things that are just a little bit more bite-sized. Okay, so the first one we're going to look at is Find Topics. So we're going to click on that. And does anyone watching want to maybe give their discipline that they're working in? Otherwise, I can throw in some of my own. I've got a few prepared, but certainly I think for our topics in our literature review. We can do a couple for for people that are watching if you have any particular things that you want to find about lifestyle medicine. That's a great one. And you were the fastest typer as well. So lifestyle medicine. And so you notice when I put in lifestyle medicine, we even get something, and it's not an autocomplete, but it's a set of normally about three suggested things. So I could just go with lifestyle medicine, and we might just go with this and see how it does. But we can already niche down on what we're looking for our topics with these suggested phrasings instead. And I found that these can be really helpful. So I think I said before, first use SciSpace. In fact, on my YouTube channel, you can track back, and we can probably work it out pretty easily. Whenever my first SciSpace video was, which I think was 2020, middle of 2023, that minus 2 weeks was when I came across SciSpace and used it for the first time. And I've done a few videos on it, but I've also, as a researcher, used it for my own research as well because I have found it helpful. So we'll put in lifestyle medicine, and we'll let it go for it. And so it's searching. Notice up the top here, we've got tabs for standard and high quality. When we're searching for topics, it gives us standard and high quality. When we are doing a literature search, we'll also have one more tab there, which is for deep research. And so when we did literature review, I'll show you the difference between the standard and the high quality as well, so you can get a feel for those different levels. So the standard is what you can access for free. It's a little bit like ChatGPT, I guess, where there's the free tier, there's the first paid tier, and there's kind of the premium tier with the deep research. Okay, so we put in lifestyle medicine. And we can see that what it's done is it's started to suggest possible areas and research questions. When it can, we can see that it's given us sources there as well. And so this is the kind of thing that an experienced researcher may do from time to time, I guess, if you had a new topic. But certainly if you're someone who knows the big area you want to work in, but you're really kind of struggling to go, okay, but what about that? Am I going to do my master's or my PhD? So kind of a thesis or a dissertation. What about this am I going to do I really want to zoom into? And this is really helpful. And you can see it's given us heaps. In fact, as I keep scrolling, so it's given us a whole heap of different ideas there. And then the nice thing with these is you can see that that's hyperlinked. I can click on that, and then I can start digging a level deeper as well. So really handy for those of you where you're trying to kind of find that niche. And I think even those of you, if you're a more experienced researcher, you might use this with the students you're supervising, with your classes, with people you're mentoring, and so it'll be of help for you helping them to try and find different elements of research, but even maybe for yourself as well. Just periodically, I will come in and I will just put in. So I have put in things there like AI for medical training, which is the area that I'm working in. And I already know a whole lot of things that I want to cover in that. But I've got this tool here that's just really handy for brainstorming. So it just gives me another brain that's going to do some brainstorming and potentially give me some more ideas. At the top here, it's given us a summary. We can get the summary from either the top 5 or the top 10 topics. Okay, so we are recording, and I assume that we will be distributing that recording out to those of you who are here watching. Okay, so I saw a couple of other good topics in there. We had climate change, AI, solopreneurship, love that. taste perception. That sounds interesting as well. Um, so that was a topic one. Then for our literature review, we can either get to that here in the linked literature review, or immediately when you log in, it's the first thing that you see as well. When I click on it, I see my recent searches, and then it also has some suggested ones. The suggested ones I think are more for interest. Those of you that haven't used SciSpace before, you can get an idea of the kind of research question, like the format that it likes to see. We can see that we've got standard, high quality, and deep review. And so someone mentioned climate change. So we're going to go for how does climate change impact biodiversity, which might not be your exact topic, but hopefully it's kind of in the ballpark. And we're doing the standard search. So this is uh, what the free plan is going to access. And so we can see here that it gives us a really nice summary. We click on the read more. So a really nice summary with references. All of the references are then down in this table below. And we'll kind of zoom into what's in this table and what we can do with this table in a little bit. We can change from using the top 5 papers to the top 10 papers. And if we scroll down, it gives us what it considers the 10 papers that it thinks is going to make the best summary. But we've got the button here where we can hit load more papers and we can just keep going. Gives us 10 more, gives us 10 more. So it's quite nice. It's laying it out in a way that is readable, and then you just look at the next bit, look at the next bit. From our summary here, we can save it into a notebook, which is basically just saving a summary page for us. We can also go back to find topics. So we can even use this again for brainstorming in an iterative fashion, where we put in the research question that gives us a summary that leads us back to find topics, and we can kind of go around and repeat that a couple of times and just use that for even more brainstorming different kind of ideas of niches. So if we've got access to the high quality, then we can click on that. We could have gone back and just redone the search, but we can also just change between the levels here. And so this is just nice as a contrast. And we can see that when we flick over to the high quality, we just get slightly longer, slightly more detailed summary there. Um, didn't take note and track all the papers to see whether it changed the papers much. But we can see that we just get slightly bigger summary, slightly more detail. And really, as you go throughout the things in SciSpace, the standard to high quality, that's generally you get something that's good and then something that's even better because you've got just a little bit more depth and detail to what you get provided. Okay, so I'm going to give you just a really quick demo of Deep Review, and then we'll come back to a high quality one, and we'll kind of just explore some of the options of what you can do down here with all of the papers that it gives you. So we're going to go back to home. What are we going to pick? AI solopreneurship. What's the research or a research question attached to that? What other ones were there? Energy taste perception person. If you have a good research question you want to put into the chat, that could be good as well. Um, Noise pollution. Yep, that sounds like a good one as well. So actually, while you put those in, we'll come back to one of those. Let's just do the deep review on one of these ones that I've done recently. So with my powerlifting, I was very interested in supplementation. Creatine is a supplement that can help you build muscle. It's been around for quite a long time. Turns out that it's also Got some positive neurological effect as well. So in addition, I find with access to SciSpace, as well as using it for research for the day job, for things that I'm interested in just diving a little bit deeper, this is giving me access to papers and summaries, so I can just put in other stuff that I'm interested in. So we're going to go creatine, and we're going to go deep review. And so, those of you who have maybe seen Deep Review demoed, say with ChatGPT's Deep Review, very similar kind of concept here, where it's going to prompt you for more information. So when I put in my research question, rather than just going, okay, I will do my best. Instead, it's going to ask you questions back um, in order to try and get a better search. So we can see here, I've asked about creatine and muscle development and athletic performance. And so we can see that it is asking me about specifics. And so let's go with amateur powerlifters. Um, and you will also test it out with a spelling mistake. So we see that I spelled efficacy wrong there. Um, but it is generally smart enough. I've certainly typed in a few garbled things, and it's been pretty good with making its way through any spelling mistakes. And so with the deep research, it does take longer. We can see here it's saying it's going to take up to 3 minutes. And so what it does starts off by asking you some prompting questions. And so the more detailed your initial prompt, the better. But it will still then ask you for further prompts. So it will be saying, okay, I know you're wanting to work in this area, but actually, let's zoom in even more. Um, if we were talking about I don't like to say best practice, but a better practice, then instead of me just typing in amateur powerlifters efficacy trends, I should have really fleshed that out into a couple of sentences and been much more specific. So I could have done a better job here. I'm just trying to demo it very quickly. And so we saw there that as it was running, it was asking itself more questions. So that prompting was actually flicking along um, and getting more detailed. And so once it's kind of asked itself questions, then it will come over and we can see that we've got a table of contents here, all hyperlinked. We expand it out and we can see that we've got substantially more detailed review. We can see that it's used a whole lot more references. Um, in general, it hits stronger references. We can see that it analyzed 1,050 papers, found 202 papers relevant to the query. So it is um, really starting to dig deeper. And in this system, we can have up to the top 20 papers here summarized. And then one of the ways that we can alter what happens in the summary is by changing the filters and changing which papers are down here. So we will go back to a high quality review. And hopefully I don't upset it by just flicking back to the high quality review. The question about the PDF access, we will look at that in just a second. Can you show me how to go back to your original QC and propose detail prompt and choose one of them? Not quite sure what you're asking there. So with that question about the prompt, the proposed detailed prompt, It asked it asked me a question. It kind of had four different points. Those are still just suggestions. So you can just choose one of them. So I could have said, yes, go with number one, or I could have said something along the lines of what was in one of those four, or I could have done something that was a little bit different from all of them. Really, it's just trying to get more and more detail about your question. Okay, so we're now in the high quality. The question about the difference between the standard high quality and deep. Level of detail, the deep review prompts back. The deep review, I believe, used the ChatGPT Deep Research API. Rowan can nod to that one if I'm correct on that.
Sure, I'll
Um,
respond to that.
yep. Um,
So, okay, I'll just respond here. So, main difference between standard and high quality is they follow similar format, but in high quality, we consider more papers. So, in standard, we consider around 250 papers to check which of them are relevant. For high quality, we take it a notch higher to consider 400 papers from our corpus of 200 billion. So usually in the top 10, 20, in high quality, you will usually find few more papers which are relevant. Uh, and the output is bigger, so you get a bigger summary. So those are the two different between standard and high quality. Deep review is completely different, where we, try multiple queries, uh, go through the citations and references of a lot of papers. Like we follow a researcher's approach. What would a normal researcher do? Fire a query, okay, then based on the results, fire another query. Then based on those, keep firing a variety of queries to get a big set of papers. And then as a researcher, normally we know the citations and references are where you find more relevant papers. So that's what the agent here does, goes through the citations and references. And then you get a very longer summary. So yeah, that deep review is a completely different side to it. We are working on getting a even longer report, like a 5-10 page report on deep review soon. So it will be like a, research proposal level report on deep review with citations and everything. So yeah, hope it answers the question.
awesome. Thank you, Rowan. Um, I think there's a couple more kind of product ones that possibly Rowan can answer a couple of those just directly into the chat. Those kind of more technical ones, like that one that's just popped up. So we've done our search. We've got our summary here, and then we have the table of papers. So table of papers, we've got a number of different things here. One that we can do is we can filter. And so you can see we've got an option here. We can filter by PDF and we can filter by open access. So the person that was querying before about being able to access the PDFs, two elements to that. One is that if the PDF is available, it is linked, and so you'll just be able to click on the link and get to it. For ones that are paywalled off, we can see there is the request PDF button. And so that will basically send, I believe it'll send an email off to the researcher in doing giving a request for the PDF. Certainly, the other way you can approach that, which is a little bit more old school, is you can always just Google up the details of one of the authors. There's normally contact authors for most journals, and just request it directly. Certainly, as a researcher, I've had that happen many times over the years. So that's one way, but we can also particularly, I think if we are doing something with a shorter time span, then if we tick PDF and we tick open access, that will mean we're only getting journal articles where we will be able to see the whole article, either through the PDF or for some open access, they'll be on a web page, but it means we'll be able to access it. So top journals and conferences. Rowan, possibly in the chat, you kind of give some detail on what top means. There's been a couple of questions come past
Sure.
about top. And the I think I would highlight that top can mean a few different things. I mean, there's a few different journal ratings where you've got Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. In the sort by, we can sort by citation count. So that's kind of a rough way of quality because some things that are cited aren't necessarily all that good, depending on what domain you're in. But those are definitely two ways. And then in the more filters, if we click on that, just answering the question about the past 5 years from Linda, we can see that we can filter by year, publication type. We can select specific journals and conferences. We can put in keywords to include and exclude. And having exclusions can be really handy if you're working in an area where either goes across domains or there's generic terms or things like that. So we've got a number of different filters there. We then have columns. So currently mine is set up where the only column I have is insights, but we can make this table get much bigger by adding columns. And so we can see some of the columns that it will just be set up to do immediately. Conclusions, results, methods, literature review, limitations, contributions, even more. Research gap, independent variables, dependent variables, data set. So a whole lot of things that we can add columns, and depending on what you're working on, some of these will make more sense than others. For some sorts of research, knowing kind of sample sizes and which variables you use can be really important. For others, not so much. And then you can add your own as well. So you can see columns added by me. Something that I, on a couple of my research papers, needed to know was about changes over time. So you can actually put in, using this button here, create a new column. You can put in a prompt to ask it to try and search for a particular thing across each article, and then that will fill in into that column as well. And so that can be really handy. You want to be as with any AI prompting, you want to be as specific as you can. And some things are going to be easier for the system to be able to pick out than others. But definitely handy. And yeah, for me, I think I had a couple of others here. Actually, I had a couple of others here that I'd been using and I kind of needed to delete because some of the research I've done is kind of consulting research, not published research. And yeah, there's a few things sadly I couldn't show, but changes over time I left in there. Can you demonstrate this, please, to create a prompt column? Keeping it on the time, yes, we can. So if I just wanted one of the pre-existing ones, let's click results. It normally take a little bit of time, but we can see that it is throwing pretty detailed results in there actually. So what are we looking at? We're looking at creatine for muscle development. Well, another nice user thing we can see here that I was trying to think of what I could put in as a column, and we can see it flicking through different possibilities. So obviously for you with your research, you'll know what you want to look for. But me live demoing this, and so I mean, as you would have seen, this is all live. This is not pre-recorded. Funding source was one of the suggestions there. And not all of these articles will have funding sources, but it's definitely. And again, you can see I can have up to 150 words of what it could be. So let's click create. And there we go. Straight away. That was really quick. It's something that I've found with SciSpace is having used it for 2 years. I've used this for 2 years, and this is one of the ones that I come back to because there is always improvements and new stuff getting added. And so even this past week, prepping for this webinar, there's been a few times where I've been doing things. It's like, hey, look at that. That's pretty cool because it's something that I've seen that's new. So yeah, funding source. Received financial remuneration from the sponsor of the special issue, Elschem. Okay, and so that's good. So this one, and as we'd expect, there's plenty where there's no mention. If we were doing, say, drug research, we would definitely get a whole lot more. But we did see in that very first one. So yeah, really neat that you can add columns to look for your own stuff, and generally pretty good. For every article, we've got a link for the PDF if it's available. Well, the summary, there's podcast where it will turn the summary into audio. So if you prefer listening to stuff, we can chat with it, we can bookmark it, and we can cite it. If we click on the link for a paper, let's click on this one, then we get pop up in a new tab. And then this one did have our PDF. So when we go and click on a particular paper, we can see that we get a summary of some sort at the top. We get the full abstract. Because we had the PDF, we then have the PDF in the viewer. There's a link up there. If I hit the PDF link, then that will take me to the PDF on the publisher's website. But because the PDF's available, it's here in the viewer. And what's really cool is that we've got this chat over here where I can just ask questions. And so I can ask specific questions or general questions. So we can see a few here where it's like, summarize the introduction. What data set was used? So it's got some suggestions, but I can try and ask anything I like. And in fact, when I click in there, what were the methods? Summarize the introduction. What are the limitations? So it has lots of good suggestions. I can drag and I can highlight of the paper. And so there we go. There's limitations, quite a few of them. And it will give me it will generally do a very good job of answering what I'm asking. If we have a table or if we have maths, and I don't know if this one's going to have maths. Okay, this one doesn't really have any maths, but we've got this button here, and I'm going to show you in a way that's not going to work very well, where we click on that, and we'll get a little crosshairs, and then we drag the crosshairs over whatever we're interested in. And this could be a table, but it could also be mathematical formulae. So if we had something with mathematical formulae up, then we just drag the crosshairs, we select a bit, and then it will provide analysis. And if you dig out one of my YouTube videos on SciSpace when they first launched this, and I think it's even better now than it was then. I put my PhD into here, which had some pretty technical mathematical components. And it did a really, really good job of me being able to just select very complex algebraic formula and it to be able to explain it in really nice, simple terms. And admittedly, it was my PhD, so I knew exactly what the stuff already meant. But that was really good because it meant that I knew it was doing a good job of explaining because it was my PhD and it was stuff that I'd written myself. So we can see here over on the right, it has grabbed that table and then it has summarized that table. So particularly with the really, if you're a non-stats maths researcher, but you're working in a domain where there are highly mathematical papers, sometimes you'll run into those just big bits of algebra and equations. And this is really handy for something like that. And even for me, who I have a PhD in statistics, I can read that stuff. it's still just handy to just drag, drop, and it just says, this is what the parameters mean. This is what this formula does. And then you can then do follow-up questions as well. So you can see here with it's summarized my table. It's suggested 3 follow-up questions if I want to carry on that train of thought. Cool. So that I think was actually the last thing that I wanted to show you. And so we are going to, we'll leave that open, but we'll jump back to my slides because we have about 10 minutes left. And so I guess there's 2 questions. And in fact, we can kind of bring the 2 questions up together. In the chat or in the Q&A, what are you most excited? What did you see today that you're excited to try yourself? Hopefully everyone that was watching, there was at least something in there, even if you've used SciSpace a bit. There's just so much in there. I mean, I didn't in this last 50 minutes, I haven't even covered everything just of those little bits. So what are you most excited to try? And do you have any other questions? And so you've got me here. I can answer questions, I guess, as a researcher and as a user of SciSpace. But we've got Rowan here as well, who will be able to answer some of those more technical things as someone involved with actually building it. I'll do a little bit of scroll back just in case I've missed any. I think we had a few that were kind of more the technical stuff. So Rohan covered top journal and conferences, only Q1 quality. So that's really good. Good to know. We've got some questions coming in. Let me scroll back down. Is there a discount or a special offer that's on the next slide? Yes, there is some discount codes specifically for this. So we will we won't forget about those. Custom columns, yeah, they're really, really handy. And maybe a connected papers functionality. So I think that's aimed at you, Rowan, is I don't know if that's already on the future features, but that's something that I've played with something similar. The in the non-AI world, there's a program called Voss Viewer where you'll get all your references and then you'll get a network map of what referenced what, and you can kind of visualize it. So Voss Viewer was the pre-AI one. There's connected papers and there's some other stuff that only does that. But that being embedded in here, that would definitely be cool. Can you search papers in a specific year? Yes. So in those filters, one of the filters on the table was year. So you can choose your year. Yes, yeah, the discount codes are coming. There's I didn't show that. So that's probably one important thing. We will jump back over. Here's our table. Apologies, I should have included that. Up in the top right of this table, we have the export button. Doesn't export the PDFs, but does export the references. And so you can see we've got CSV, Excel, BibTeX, XML, and RIS. So between all of those, you should be able to get your references into whatever program you're using. But there is that button there. How to manage the references. So that comes down, I guess, a little bit to workflow. So some people may choose to use this export button and then export if they're working in Word, or particularly, say, if you're in the sciences or maths and using LaTeX or Overleaf, which I guess is just LaTeX, or Quarto or any of those tech based things, you'll probably export those references out. This will be a convenient place where you've collected your papers, you've read your papers, you've seen summaries of your papers, but you'll still do the work in tech. But another way of going about it is working with notebooks, and so a notebook, um, we a notebook. I mean, it's really just an HTML page. You can see we've got all of our normal formatting up here, so we can export into here, and then we can write around it. So depending again, different people have different processes for writing a journal article. For me, I like whacking in all the headings, and then it's almost like a skeleton, and then from the skeleton, I build it up. Different people, different ways of working, but from the notebook, you this is just all HTML page. You can write in here and then you can export it as a docx. And so you'll end up with a Word document with your writing. And when it exports from from where we have our table of references into the notebook, you can see it creates our reference list. And we can even change it from APA. And I can remember once upon a time where this had like 3 or 4, and now you can see like all of these, which is again just features just keep getting added. So if you're writing for a particular journal, and I was editing an article yesterday and having headaches with a modified Vancouver. In fact, maybe after the session, I'm going to scroll down and see if it's in here because this might make my life easier. Um, so that would be another workflow. AI plagiarism, we could spend a couple of hours on, so a couple of questions go past. You should be thinking about the thing you are writing, what's an appropriate level of AI use. So if you are a student and you're writing something and you got told no AI, then that was the instruction you received. I would certainly like to think, and if I was still teaching classes, I would certainly have my students using AI tools, but also using their brains as well. And so I would that's where I would be drawing my threshold for things that I was teaching. With journal articles, a lot of journals will have declarations, and so they will indicate what's reasonable use or not. If you're writing a white paper or you're writing something that's like gray literature, then to me, as long as everything's correct, and then I would be using systems like this even more. So kind of getting even more assistance with it. So I think that's a very brief rundown on AI. It's certainly something that is a big topic. The other thing that I would really highlight to you is as a researcher, and there's been a number of cases where people copied and pasted out of ChatGPT, and they copied the the bit at the end saying, "Would you like any more help?" And that ended up in a journal article. And those people, like, they've wrecked their careers from doing that. So you should think about your professional reputation, and you should think about the thing that I produced at the end. Is this a reflection of me as a researcher? So by making sure that a human being is the last one through, then whatever level of AI assistance you've had on your writing, making sure that you as the human being have marked your stamp on it, and you can say this is mine. This wasn't just generic AI written. I wrote this. AI helped with phrasing, or AI helped with search, or here's the bits that you can kind of say, well, it was my helper, but it didn't replace me. I'm still the researcher. Okay. Let us jump back to the slides because we've got 1 minute left. I'll scroll away. I'm quite happy to hang around and answer another question or two. But given that there was all the excitement and demand for these, so discount codes they're valid to the 14th of May, so you've got a week. And so we've got 45% and 20% off annual and monthly LYN, and then the number, and LYN 25 for annual. And I can assure you that LYN 100 won't give you 100% off, but you can try it if you like. But I think it will. I think it will say no, sorry. These are the valid ones, and I think they are definitely pretty generous. So in the Q&A, someone asked, does it generate accurate references, or the references need to be verified? You should always be verifying manually, whether it's out of ChatGPT, SciSpace, or the traditional databases. I had a nightmare in my own PhD where the databases weren't even consistent on what they were giving you to export into EndNote. So sadly, you should always check, but certainly the ones that I've used in SciSpace so far have been good. So, but yeah, anything you produce, you should always be checking afterwards anyway. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone, for coming. We've still got 55 people here. Hopefully you've found this interesting and engaging. If there is more SciSpace related content that you'd be keen to see in a webinar in this kind of format, definitely let us know. And outside of that, not sure, I guess SciSpace.com for SciSpace. If you want to connect with me, youtube.com, Dr. Lyndon Walker. You can find me on SciSpace, on YouTube. And certainly there's a number of times on YouTube where I talk about SciSpace. So you can find me on YouTube is the best way to find me. You can follow me on LinkedIn as well. It's the other place to connect. I don't tend to connect back to people, but I do post research and AI related stuff on LinkedIn. So if you want to follow me there, you might see more interesting stuff as well.